A recent report finds that tutor.com is owned by a Hong Kong company with close ties to the Chinese Communist regime. What does this mean for data security? Joining us now is Nicole Neily, founder and president of Parents Defending Education, the organization that released the report. Nicole Neily, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you are the founder and president of Parents Defending Education. Recently, you released a report that found at least 100 school districts across the nation give students access to tutor.com, which is owned by Primavera and has ties to the Chinese regime. Now, what are the concerns here?
Sure. I think the concerns here are much like the concerns that we've seen over TikTok. First and foremost is that the American public, families, and largely school districts are not aware that this has been purchased by a Chinese-owned company. And as the Daily Caller just released an investigation, the Primavera Holdings has very close ties to the Chinese Communist Party. And so, again, with TikTok, we have been told over and over again by their parent company, ByteDance, that information is not flowing back and forth, whereas whistleblowers in the U.S. have said, actually, maybe it is. And so I think one concern is that we don't really know what's taking place. And another concern is that Primavera Holdings actually is affiliated with ByteDance. It's kind of the parent company of that. And so if one thing is happening with TikTok, it almost certainly is happening with tutor.com as well.
On that note, we do know that under Chinese law or under the Chinese Communist Party's law, if they ask for data from a company, the company has to hand it over. Given that, what are the dangers of these foreign-owned companies, especially when it comes to that data of our children?
Sure. I think one concern is that these school districts are collecting a vast amount of information. And so if this application is on students' iPads, students' computers, what do they have access to? Aside from the personal information, the IP addresses, just the additional data that schools are collecting on a regular basis. Parents are concerned about the surveys that are taking place, asking kids about political involvement. A lot of, DODEA, the Department of Defense Education Agency, uses tutor.com. But as you mentioned earlier, over 100 school districts across the country are also using this. And so information about student achievement, as well as student locations and largely, personal information as well, also can be gathered and then sent back.
Given the findings of TikTok, but also now Primavera and how widespread it is, to what extent do you think we understand the Chinese Communist threat and influence in the states? Can anything be done?
I don't think anybody really has a full understanding of what's been going on. I mean, we operate on like an electoral schedule, maybe every 2 years, 4 years, whereas, we have seen the Chinese government operate on, 50-year plans. And so there is a very long-standing plan, the Belt and Road Initiative, where there's soft power. We released a report last year called Little Red Classrooms, exposing how Confucius Institutes have a K-12 correlator called Confucius Classrooms, where teachers, teaching materials, curriculum have been sent over and used by American classrooms across the country for more than a decade. And so as much as we hear educators and teachers unions in America talk about teaching true history, when we have American children learning about China from Chinese teachers, from foreign nationals, are they learning about the 3 Ts? Do they know about Tiananmen? Do they know about Tibet? So that's one aspect of it. So what are our children learning? Are they being given like a whitewashed, rosy picture of the People's Republic of China and what's taking place there? And then also, then what information is being gathered about us and will be used against us in the future? So I think there's kind of both an offensive and a defensive play here. And I think most Americans they're not aware of this at all. They think, all right, we're getting cheap goods and services without thinking, is this a hostile power, period?
Right now, we are seeing in Congress the bill to get TikTok to divest from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, over similar concerns to this. What should be the next step when it comes to tutor.com and the concerns around Primavera?
Sure. Well, with regards to even the Little Red Classroom study that we released last year, we contact the state superintendents in 34 states and D.C., asking them to investigate whether what has been taking place. As we have seen concerns being raised in Congress over the past several months about malware being put on energy servers, has similar malware been put on education servers? Will those, can those utilities be shut down, or can our education system be shut down? Sadly, we have not heard much back from state superintendents, which is a subject of concern. And so this is something that we're going to continue to urge both state and federal officials to look into, to A, get a handle around the scope of this, and B, if this is truly an intelligence gathering operation, then to shut it down. Why the fact that the TikTok bill is so narrowly targeted at TikTok, I think maybe we should be looking bigger at essential companies being owned by hostile foreign countries.
Nicole Neily, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.